Hello friends and colleagues, and welcome back to the ladder tutorial series. I'm Nadav Hexelman, and today we are going to make our character snap to the ladder the moment we approach it. So in the last episode we managed to make our character climb the ladder finally, but as you can see, if I approach from a different angle like so, it doesn't snap to the ladder. So I want to make it snap in rotation to face the ladder, and I also want to make it snap to the center of the ladder right here, the moment we step on it. Okay, so let's do that. First of all, let's go back to our third-person character. Remember, here we have our function, toggle climbing, that switches between climbing and not climbing. And what we want to do now is, in order to snap our character to the ladder, first we want to see what's the ladder rotation, so we can make our character take that rotation and use it to understand how to face back to that ladder. Okay, so let's do that first. In order to do that, remember we have our function here that the ladder itself is calling. So if I'm gonna press here on my ladder and open the blueprint, you see this is the ladder, and whenever the character is overlapping it, it's calling the function toggle climbing in our third-person character. And now what I can do here is I can actually pass through this function the ladder itself. The ladder that the character just stepped on, I can pass this ladder, this reference, to the character through the function. And then when I have the ladder here in my character, in the memory of this character, it knows about this ladder. I can take data out of it, like which way it's facing, where it's at in the world, and other information from the ladder. And this is part of another part of the blueprint communication that we are learning how to do here. So in order to do that, it's really simple. I can just click on my function here, toggle climbing, and I remember we set here to have a Boolean variable here, just to check is climbing is on or off. We pass that information also through our ladder here. And now we're going to add a new variable here by clicking here on new parameter, and now we're going to choose ladder BP. And this just brings us a variable which is the ladder actor reference. Okay, so we can call this ladder, let's call it, ladder ref. Hit compile. And if we go back to our ladder, we see in the function, we now have also this ladder ref pin here that we can connect. And in order to pass this ladder that we just stepped onto the character, we only need to drag out of here and type self, get reference to self. So this just passes this ladder that we just climbed on, just overlapped, to the third person through here. And I just want to store this ladder inside my third person character too, because now we're just passing the information, but we're not storing it yet. And I want to store it, and I'm just going to drag out of here and promote to variable and type current ladder reference. Why am I typing current? Because whenever we are stepping on a ladder in our game, it's going to override this variable here, current ladder reference, that is coming from the ladder. Okay, so let's say I had another ladder here. So whenever my character steps on this ladder, it's going to pass itself through here to this variable. And when we walk on this ladder, it's going to pass again itself, and it's going to override here this reference. This variable is going to override it. And so we're always storing in our variable, in our current ladder reference, only the current ladder we are just overlapped, which is really important. So now we have this ladder, and we can start taking information out of it. So let's do that. I can just really quickly just get the current ladder reference, and in order to check its rotation, I'm going to find its forward vector. So its forward vector is just, you see this red X pointing forward, and I just want to find this angle, because if you see it, even if I rotate the ladder around, the forward vector is still facing the same forward direction of the ladder. It doesn't, because we are using it locally, it's not dependent on the world. So it doesn't matter from which angle I approach the ladder, it will always correct the rotation of my character to the rotation of the ladder. So back in my third person character, I'm just taking out of my current ladder reference, and I'm dragging out get actor forward vector. Okay, so just this brings me a vector, and I want to find a rotation through this vector. So I'm going to drag out of here and type xv, which will give me rotation from xv vector, which will give me just a rotation of the ladder from its forward vector. It just translates the vector into a rotation. And now that I have a rotation, I can just, inside my third person, type set actor rotation. Okay, and this I connect here and compile. And now you'll see, if I play the game, that my character is rotating. Okay, it's rotating the wrong way, but it is rotating. Okay, now let's fix that. The reason it's rotating the wrong way is because we are actually getting the forward vector, which is facing this direction, which is the, you can see it's the opposite direction, because we want our character to face not this way, but actually this way, 180 degrees to the other side. So we just need to flip it. How do we flip a vector? We just, out of our forward vector here, we're just gonna multiply this with -1. Okay, and doing that, we are flipped the rotation of the ladder. And now if I walk close to it, let's see if I come from an angle, it snaps my rotation to the ladder. Now let's find the location. So first of all, I can change this node from set actor rotation. You can just delete it and type set actor location and rotation. So I have a node for both. And reconnect here. And in order to get the location, we're just gonna, again, just make myself some room here. I'm gonna grab the current ladder ref, copy paste it, and I will just type out of here get actor world location. So we're getting the actor location, but actually, so we're getting three vectors here. It's a vector, so we have x, y, and z. But we don't care about the z, right? Because we don't care about what height our character is grabbing the ladder. Only we want to set it to the x and the y. Okay, we only care about this position. We don't care about where is the height. We want to snap the character straight here in the middle. So in order to do that, I'm just gonna split the struct here of the ladder and split the struct here of the set actor. And I'm just gonna plug in x, y, and for the z, we're just going to take our own character. So I'm just going to type here get actor location, which returns, as you see, the target itself. So it returns the location of this target of the third person character. And we're only taking its z value here and connecting. So we're taking the x and the y value of the ladder and the z value of our character to override. Okay, let's hit play. Okay, we have a small snapping happening there. There's it's snapping, right? But as you can see, there's a small glitch that we are seeing. The reason is because we have nothing to animate, right? The motion. If we add a small animation to this set actor location and rotation, a really fast, quick one, it will look better and feel better whenever we're climbing the ladder, approaching the ladder. So in order to do that, I can use a timeline to animate this node. The problem is I'm inside my function, and function unfortunately cannot use timelines. So in order to do that, we need to create an event. So I'm going to just cut this out of here and go back to my event graph. Okay, we are getting out of our function, and I want to create here a new custom event. I right click and write custom event, and we're going to call this event snap character to ladder, and I'm copying the same code I just cut from my function. So actually, if I reconnect it here and back in my function, I'm just gonna out of here just write snap character to ladder. I just rerouted the event back into the function. So it's actually the same code, just rerouted as an event. And this will give me the ability to add a timeline here and animate, because events do support timelines. So let's just check that everything is still working. Yep, it's working. It's rotating and snapping. And now we're just going to add the timeline animation. So in order to do that, I'm right-clicking and typing add timeline animation, and we're going to call this new timeline, we'll call it snap character TL, which is timeline. And first of all, I need to set the curve of my timeline. So I'm double clicking the timeline, and really briefly, timelines is just a graph, an animation graph that I can feed with a float or vector or events or many stuff. The way I like to use it is just to feed it 0 to 1 value using a float. So I'm clicking a float here. I'm going to give this a new name. I'll call it snap alpha. Okay, and I'm going to give it a length. It's going to be super short, so like 0.15 of a second. And I can add two animation keys here. So I'm just right-clicking, add key. First key I'm setting to be time 0 and value 0. It's the first key at 0 at 0. And the second key is going to be time, our last frame, which is .15. You see it snaps to the end of the timeline here, grayed out. And the value will be 1. Okay, and if I click here, I can just see my graph here. And it's a linear graph, super linear graph. Very simple. It just goes from 0 to 1 in 0.15 of a second. Okay, it starts at 0, and when it reaches 0.15 of a second, it reaches the value 1. So using this normalized value here, coming out of here, whenever I run my timeline, I can actually use it to fade between two values, which will be my initial location of the actor when he just stepped on the ladder, and the second value will be the value I want the character to be at in the end of the animation. Okay, so in order to continue, let's first, before I'm going to plug my animation here, I want to first store the beginning of the animation. The beginning of the location of the character and the rotation of the character. So let's just get actor location and get actor rotation, and I'm dragging out of this promoter variable. We're going to call this actor location for ladder climb. So it's going to store the initial location of the character the moment it stepped on the ladder. Okay, let's plug it in here. And then we're going to make a new variable, promoter variable, with our actor rotation, which will be actor rotation before ladder climb. Let's plug this in too. And now we can plug it to player start. So what's happening now is just we are getting our actor location, our get actor rotation, our actor being the third person character. We're saving this data in our variables here, and then we start the animation. Just to clarify, what I'm trying to do here is to animate between the position of the character when it just stepped on the ladder and the position I want it to be in the end of the animation. So it's going to be a quick animation just snapping it to the ladder. So in order to do that, I need to bring two nodes here between my set here to the animation. First one will be vlerp. So it's a lerp of a vector. And the second will be rlerp, which is a lerp of our rotator. This is linear interpolate. Lerp stands for linear interpolate. This node just takes the first vector that we put in, and then it fades into the second vector using this alpha. And this alpha we're getting from our timeline. So when our timeline is at 0, right? Alpha will be 0. And when our timeline is at 0.15, our alpha will be at 1, right? A is 0, B is 1. What it means is that in the beginning of the animation, we have this data here, this vector plugged in inside, will be plugged here inside our set actor location. And when we get to B after 0.15 of a second, we're going to get B, and this will be our final position. And everything in between, right? In the middle of our timeline, we're going to be somewhere between A and B, okay? So A is going to be, of course, the actor before ladder climb. And the B, the position that we want our actor to be at, we're just going to take here the same thing we did here, the get actor location and rotation. We're just going to unplug it here. Just the location for now. Just going to unplug it for now. And here I'm going to split again, right? It's the same thing I did here, just splitting it like so. And again, we want to finish, the location we want to end at is going to be the ladder location, X and Y, but the actor location, Z. Okay? Actually, the best way to do it is to get it from the actor location before climb and splitting this and then connecting like so. Let's hit compile. And now what will happen, I can actually, because we are getting a vector back out of this, it's combined, recombined here. We can just right click here and tell it to recombine here too. And we can just plug this in and just plug in the update. And if we hit play now, we should see a short animation. It's a little bit hard to see, but it snaps the character to the ladder. The reason it snaps so, like it snaps right inside the ladder is because it ignores, it's not doing a collision check. So if I just turn sweep on here and play again, it will do a collision check, you see, and it will not spawn itself inside the ladder. Okay, so it's snapping. The animation is working. It's really quick. It's really hard to see. We will see it better when we do it the same with the rotation. So now let's do the same thing here for the rotation. So again, we have a linear interpolate between our actor rotation before it stepped on the ladder, right? And the rotation that we want it to be in is this, is the forward vector -1 of the ladder. Alpha is going to be the same alpha of the timeline. And again, we can play this and see what happens. So it's working. We have a small problem here. We need to take shortest path here, just to make sure it's not rotating so much when it's trying to snap. And now you see we have quick snap to our ladder. Actually, there's a slight problem here that we are still having. It has to do with the problem is that the ladder, it's actually a ladder is right here, its center is right here, and it tries to relocate the character to this position. It can't do that because the sweep is on. If we turn it off, it succeeds, but we have this glitch because it's locating right inside the ladder. So what we can do here is just add a small offset here. And in order to do that, we're just going to go quickly to our ladder. I'm going to add a new component here. It's going to be a sim component. Sim component is an empty component that has word coordinates. And we just give it a name. Let's call it ladder climb offset. Okay, and now we can just drag it out a little bit here. By just clicking it, I can control it and just find a better position so my character won't spawn here in the middle, but will be located more farther away from the ladder. And now back in my third-person character, instead of taking the current ladder reference itself, we can, out of it, just take our ladder climb offset. Get ladder climb offset. So we're taking the offset location. Let's type get word location. I'm just changing those two nodes here. Okay, so the only thing I did here is I took the location, not of the ladder itself, not the entire ladder. I took the location of this component here, which I can offset to be slightly farther away from the ladder, and now it's working perfectly. So even if I approach from an angle, it snaps to the ladder center, as you can see, with a small animation that makes it look better, more smooth. And I can also rotate my ladder like so, just to check that I can approach from a different angle. And it works, it rotates it to the correct angle also when I rotate the ladder. Great. It's been a long video and it's time to wrap it up. Next video, I'm going to show you how to finally animate our character so we can see it actually climbing, moving its hands and legs along the ladder. And I hope to see you in the next video, and don't forget to subscribe so you can stay updated. See you later.